Friends, colleagues, students, thank you for being here today. And some of you come probably on short notice. Thanks very much for coming. And I'm very pleased today to be joined by a fellow countryman of mine, but a figure that is very inspirational. Some of you probably had seen him through the famous Endgame podcast, and that one is very inspiring. And then he has a somewhat similar background with some of us. You grew up in a very highly academic household. Mm-hmm. And then, but the difference is that he makes differences in real life. I haven't, I'm just staying in the lab.
No, you have.
He's made it to the shelves. But it's always fascinating because what you've done is not only to bring something into day-to-day life, but also promoting Indonesia, in a very global sense, in a very elegant way, and introducing food in a way that is very scientifically sound, and we want to hear more about that. Dr. Driando Ahnan Winarno.
Thank you.
Correct, right?
Yes.
So we're going to have 45 minutes talk, and then there will be some question and answers and discussion afterwards. So let's give a round of applause to Dr. Driando, and thank you for being.
What do you want to know, actually? What do you hope to know from this session? Anybody? Yes.
I mean, it's more so I've never really thought about the process and introducing products into a new market. So it'd be really interesting to see a sort of cultural edge to it.
Cultural edge, okay. Product to market, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I want to know how to move from the academia, like a publisher, to the industry. So
Okay.
You create some business, something like that.
Okay, academia to industry. Anybody else? Yes.
I think I would like to know about the innovation about the Tempeh itself.
Okay, Tempeh innovation. Anybody else? Yeah.
I would like to know how did you come up with that idea to make a Tempeh?
Okay, where the idea comes from.
Yes.
All right, so all of those would be answered through this presentation. Okay, it started with a thinking that I was in undergrad. I could not fall asleep almost every day because I thought, why my life? Every day I eat something, I consume things, I produce waste, I use this word as resource, and I will be dead. Everyone will die. New babies will be born. So what's the point of my life? So it's just this very short years of humanity, right? History. So why my life for? So with that struggle, I Googled how to find your life purpose, right? Google everything. And this graph came up. Anybody has heard of Ikigai? Yeah? Anybody has found their Ikigai?
Yeah.
No? Anybody? No? Okay, so it's actually the concept, it's a Japanese concept that intersects between 4 circles. Circle number 1 is what you love. Circle number 2 is what you're good at. Number 3 is what the world needs for. And the 4th one is how could you make a living? All right, so I tried to plot things that I loved back then. I love playing music, that's my first dream. I love playing computer games. I love doing sports. I love doing arts. But nothing really fit all the 4 circles until I contemplated more about my other aspects in life. So I should go. So I contemplated on 3 things that changed my life forever. On the left is a story about my grandpa. My grandpa had to perform surgery to his own mum to remove her breast cancer tumor at his own garage as a vet. And that story haunted me. Right. One time he had to remove a spoiled rib out of his mum's body because of the disease, and he cut one artery that got blood splattered to his face, and he got traumatized. That's why he switched from vet to food science, and he eventually became the father of food science and technology of Indonesia. But this story about cancer haunts me in a way that, okay, if my great-grandma has increased cancer risk, then my mom would have increased cancer risk as well. Then me would have increased cancer risk as well. What could we do to minimize this risk of chronic diseases, not only cancer, but diabetes, Alzheimer, and heart disease, etc. These are all having the same similarities, for example, tied to inflammation, let's say, tied to certain lifestyles. And it turns out that food, diet, is very important, besides keeping healthy social lives, exercising regularly, having enough sleep, etc., etc., etc. So one value, health. The second value is sustainability. I love to go for runs. I used to run in Indonesia from Semanggi to Blok M, but then every time I ran alongside the river, I was really sad because I saw these trash in the river. And now with the air pollution, that made me angry. How could the environment be this polluted? What can I do about that? So the second value is the environment, sustainability. The third value is justice. So I even came along with my uncle and my aunt. My uncle lives in Germany, my aunt is German, to certain parts of Indonesia. And I often went to Raja Ampat, anybody from the same area? Raja Ampat, to this particular village called Sawingrai. And it was only in my second year in Sawingrai that I realized that my friends who played football with me turned out to be much older than I thought they would be, these kids. And that was my first encounter with childhood malnutrition. It's called protein energy malnutrition. They don't get enough protein, they don't get enough calorie. So I thought, how can I help? I have this much privilege in my life, education. I don't need to think about what I need to eat every day. How could I contribute? So interestingly, something came across my mind that, my mom taught me how to make tempeh one day. And if I could teach them how to make tempeh with whatever available in that area, maybe I could help them to make their own food in a sustainable way and an affordable way, because tempeh is affordable, right? But then there were limited ingredients, so I tried using kidney beans or red beans instead of soybeans because of the limited trade of soybean along those islands. But it was very interesting. Why did I think about tempeh in particular? So my journey started from there, right? So I saw tempeh as a tool, as a technology, as a bridge, but more importantly, as a hope. So to me, tempeh is the food of hope. But these three values, I navigate my ikigai through these: health, sustainability, and justice, food access, affordability. To be healthy, you don't need to be rich. Healthy food is human rights. That's what I think. I guess. And the more I think about it, one of the circles of the ikigai is what the world needs, right? I was a student back then. I was a biotechnology student. Anybody from biotechnology? So I contemplated on the facts that I learned, right? As a population, we got this great technology. We are doing much better than ever, right? But then when I look at certain statistics, not really. Right? Every year, our population grows by more than 1%, but our capacity to produce food actually is decreasing about 1% every year. So are we not getting farther away from being able to feed everyone, right? And then other issues like malnutrition and hunger, meanwhile, like 70% of our food globally is wasted, and that waste, if not allocated properly, it would contribute to the greenhouse gas emission that would further decrease our capacity to produce food. And this circle, how could we break it? And I found hope in this one food. So tempeh. So I tried tempeh for the first time when I was a baby. It was my weaning food. My mom fed me with tempeh porridge as my first solid food. So weaning food is that you got breast milk and you got something when your kid is about 6 months old. Right? Tempeh was my first solid food, right? But I came to notice its potential through something quite vain, actually. So this is my impression of tempeh, right? From tukang sayur, this vegetable pushcart around my hometown, and it's oven fried, deep fried, my favorite, and eaten in this kind of plate composition, like white rice typically with some veggies, some protein, oftentimes tempeh with sambal for spiciness and some crunchiness, kerupuk, we call it. But when I was in college, I was obsessed with bodybuilding. I want to have six-pack, I want to have as much muscle mass as possible and as least fat mass as possible. So I tried this different sources of protein. I tried eating beef, chicken, eggs, drinking milk every day. But either these left me financially broke as a student, like, how could I buy these things like for everyday consumption? And I got some intolerance. So I got acne when I take milks and eggs as well. So, okay, like, is there any other option? So I looked up on Google Scholar, right, for the best source of protein. And I thought, tempeh is quite amazing. Like, it's high in protein, it's low in fat, it's low in carbs, it's low in salt, it's low in sugar, and it's quite rich in some vitamins and minerals. Why don't people use this for bodybuilding? I thought it's very cheap, it's on my dining table every day. Why don't Indonesians use tempeh for bodybuilding? Instead, we keep purchasing these expensive whey protein like milk that often make you like dealing with acne in your back, for example. Like, why not? Okay. So with that, I did further research. So I incorporated tempeh into my university assignments. Right, I wanted to do more research about tempeh, and this was 2012, so it's been like 11 years since I looked into tempeh scientifically. And the more I figured out the details about tempeh, the more I was fascinated. So tempeh originated from Indonesia, for sure. Like, the first documentation of tempeh was in Serat Centini. Anybody familiar with Serat Centini? It was written by then Prince Pakubuwono V from Solo, Surakarta. So in the 1600s, he traveled to some areas in Indonesia and he visited Bayat in Klaten. Anybody from Klaten? Central Java. So in this region, there was this public figure locally called Sunan Bayat, who served him a dish called sambal tumpang. Anybody has tried sambal tumpang? Right, so the first tempeh was not fried tempeh. First tempeh is like curry-like dish called sambal tumpang. And my grandpa is actually from that area. And I thought, gosh, like, what is this? So I tried to connect the dots, like, gosh, like, probably that guy who gave that prince that tempeh, his blood is in my veins as well. I thought, oh, quite interesting. But then, because it's something Indonesia, that motivates me, right? It answers my questions about why do keep people like idolizing things from the West? Like, why do we see brands like from the US would be superior to Indonesian brands, right? So I always had this like nationalism or / ego, right, to figure out like Indonesia can prove that we have beautiful culture, we got our beautiful inventions. So seeing tempeh as a process, as a technology, as a biotechnology gives me hope that amongst these like inventions in the scientific world, oftentimes referring to the Western world, Indonesia has something to contribute. Then I focused my research on nutrition. So as part of my PhD study, I summarized every single scientific paper on tempeh into one review paper. That was just my ambition. Like, I want to create this, if possible, 360 overarching, comprehensive understanding about tempeh that's validated in the most verified scientific content, which to me was comprehensive review paper. So I screened this 250,000 articles, narrowing it down to about 300 journal articles that are key and worth noting, then summarizing everything into this 53-page review paper. right? So the insight on nutrition is that compared to beef, tempeh contains similar amounts of energy, similar amounts of protein, much lower level of saturated fat and sodium or salt, and significantly higher contents of fiber and calcium. I was surprised. I thought, I didn't think it would be that good, right? But I would say tempeh is not inferior to beef in terms of these nutrients. Then on sustainability. To produce the same amount of protein, tempeh compared to beef only requires a fourth of the energy usage and 20th of the greenhouse gas emission release in carbon dioxide equivalent. So you can say it's 4 times more energy efficient, 20 times more emission efficient. But it makes sense, right? We're making shortcut in the food chain, in the food production chain, right? Instead of, for example, crops being fed to animals, then we need to process it. We just cut through fermentation. And in terms of affordability, we know how cheap tempeh can be in Indonesia. It could be 8 times cheaper. So it's nutritious, sustainable, and affordable. It answers my 3 values in life: health, sustainability, and affordability. So then, knowing these facts, it got me imagining, if this is a process, this is the second level. So level 1 of tempeh is a food. Level 2 is a process. Traditionally, there are non-soy tempehs, right? From Wonogiri, we have cashew tempeh instead. We have mung bean tempeh as well in Indonesia traditionally. But through I call it Tempeh Bible, the review paper. Through the Tempeh Bible, I noticed that there are more than 20 different kinds of grains, beans, nuts, and legumes that have been made into tempeh that have been researched for the health benefits. So can you imagine how many crops around the world can be converted into tempeh? Why do we need to convert to tempeh? It makes them sliceable, which make them more versatile, which make them actually healthier. So the red thread across these variations of tempeh is that the digestibility is increased. The toxicity, I'm speaking about these natural toxins that sometimes occur in natural beans. In soybean, there's something called phytate that could inhibit iron absorption. These kind of toxins can be neutralized by the fermentation process. And it can promote more vitamins like vitamin Bs, and it could release more of the antioxidants to promote more health benefits. So tempeh fermentation is opening up new access to food security, because we can utilize local crops around the world, create them into dishes according to each culture's liking that promote health, sustainability, and affordability. So an example is that a friend, anybody knows Diki Senda? I love following him on Twitter, on Instagram actually. So he's a local activist living in Molo, NTT, Nusa Tenggara Timur. And he created this library for youth development. He's such a great force of change amongst these young people in NTT. So he tried making tempeh from new beans that I didn't know exist, kacang babi and kacang nasi. I didn't know this exists, right? But he made tempeh from these local indigenous beans, made them into this local dish, put it on sourdough that he made using local sorghum. And he applied the fermentation also onto different beans on the right that typically requires about 12 times soaking and boiling to remove the natural toxin. And the fermentation could reduce the amount of boiling and washing because it could degrade some of the toxins. So this is one application that I hope we could get more around Indonesia and around the world, right? Application of this simple fermentation for local crops. Then, about my ikigai, I thought we had to do something about that. And the turning point was in 2014. So with my mom and my grandpa, both are actually food scientists, we were huddling at one dinner time. So I just got back from school, from a lecture. My grandpa just got back from his professor friend who was just getting his professorship. My mom was just getting from another lecture. So I was studying in undergrad. My mom was getting her master's degree. My grandpa was teaching. And we got home at his house. We ate at this one dining table and we thought, tempeh is amazing. Yeah, why? Yeah, I just came back from these seminars. The gut health benefit potential is amazing. Yeah, I just got back from this class as well. We spoke about the fermentation, it's amazing. Yeah, I was obsessed with bodybuilding. Tempeh is amazing. We need to do something. Okay, and with my grandpa style, we need to do international conference on tempeh. And back then, I was trying my best. So I've always been called with like global impact, international exposure. So back then, I was really going to every single conference possible outside of Indonesia. I just got back from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, from South Korea as well. Yes, we need to make this international youth conference on tempeh. So we made the international conference on tempeh in 2015 to catch up on the scientific development of tempeh. But then because we had to raise money, right? We looked for sponsorships. And it turns out that the support was more than we expected. The support not only from the academia, but industry, government, communities, and other sectors it was tremendous. So then we got back from the conference, it was amazing. But during this one morning walk, my mom and I thought it's quite a shame if it's just limited to the scientific community, right? Could we create something that can facilitate other disciplines as well? And that fits with our personalities. So my mom and I, we are very multidisciplinary. So she loves fashion. She loves to make her own clothes. I love music. So we have so many these interests. And sometimes I find it sometimes I feel like I'm a misfit in the scientific community because I love visuals, I love fashion, I love music. I don't like too long of writing. I prefer drawing instead. So in a way that was entering my sense of, I was looking for a sense of belonging, right? How can I fit science with my other interests, with arts, communications, multimedia, grassroots movement? And we made the Tempeh movement with the philosophy of a sandbox. Why? Because the blood of Tempeh movement is collaboration. So with one mission to give people access to nutritious, sustainable, and affordable food through Tempeh, we try to make collaborations, anything that you're happy to do, to make your own sandcastles. If you're a restaurant, we can make this, let's say, 5-dish fine dining on Tempeh as your sandcastle. If you're an athlete, we can make social media campaign. Oh yeah, 30-day Tempeh challenge, eating Tempeh as a source of protein to build muscle, as your sandcastle. But the point is, when people are walking past this sandcastle, we can get their attention grabs. Ooh, what's that? Those sandcastles look interesting. And without either they realize it or not, they've been educated that, hey, if you want to live more healthily and sustainably and affordably, there is this option. It's Tempeh. Level 1 is food. Level 2 is the process. You can make your own Tempeh. You can buy Tempeh, anything, but it helps people. That's what we hope to do. So 3 core principles: connect, empower, and educate. Connect. We try to do collaboration. So when I was a student, I used to jump from one embassy to the other, right? So Washington, D.C. embassy, then to LA Consulate General. So anything that would create ripples in the Tempeh world, right? Create any joint event, including today. I could stop by at the University of Nottingham for my first time to create something that could promote maybe other collaborations. Then empowerment. So my mom went from one jail to another, from one drug rehab centers to another, to educate that So interestingly, in jails, like they don't have that much budget to purchase foods for the inmates, right? So they're struggling to actually provide like nutritious food. Like let's not imagine beef, right? So we're trying to help like this option that you can actually make tempeh for your own facility. You can feed people, and they actually won first place in terms of, I think it was like entrepreneurship competition national, because not only they make their own tempeh, but they also sell tempeh produced at that jail, Cipinang, Upper Cipinang. So, and also with some school dropouts, we see tempeh as a food of hope, right? We try to help find the demand, like tempeh chips, for example, not too difficult to make, but a good shelf life, and people love it, so there's opportunity. And educate. During the pandemic, the elementary school kids got quite bored, like staying at home, so we made this like virtual tempeh making class with some elementary school kids in Bali, for example. And we went to the Netherlands, we went to Germany, we went to many, many countries to engage with, we call it the next generation, how we can incorporate these food security insights for the next generations. So now we have collaborated with 16 countries. We have involved, I think, 24 countries now through our events, and now all the activities have expanded, like talks, but the most popular one is tempeh making workshop, right? Because it's quite rare that you can try making tempeh, even for Indonesians, right? Do you know how to make tempeh and etc.? So that's the number one activity. The rest, that depends on the collaboration. Now, my favorite thing to do with the tempeh movement is to visit, I call it the tempeh movers in each country. So for example, last July in Japan, like that's top left. These are like tempeh movers in Tokyo. Then bottom right, that was in Portland, Oregon in the US, and it's quite covered, like center bottom, that's in Barcelona. So it's empowering to see how many people around the world are actually engaged in something that is very Indonesian, but it's very relevant globally with the global issues. And the face of tempeh is changing. Like tempeh is not just limited to fried tempeh, to like tempeh orek. Now tempeh is in Wellingtons, tempeh Wellingtons, spaghettis, sushi, like tacos and sandwiches. These are photos from my company, Better Nature. And it could get even crazier. So you can change the shape of tempeh, change the shape of molding. You can create edible bowl from tempeh, that's top middle. Or you can change the ingredients, make it using colorful beans, incorporate edible flowers, then incorporate it with other bacteria that can promote colors. You can change the mold to make it almost like a sculpture. Now people are looking tempeh differently. It's made by our friends in Barcelona. A husband and wife couple made this tempeh making necklace, this non-single-use plastic tempeh mold, and this fermenter. Well, let's get back to Ikigai. Could you guess which circle that I have ticked from the tempeh movement?
What you can be paid for?
Yeah?
What you can be paid for?
Yes, that is what I have not been able to tick, right? The tempeh movement is a non-profit, it's a charity, right? So I love it. I'm good at it because I got the training from my PhD program. What the world needs, I know for sure. But what you can be paid for, I have not ticked that. But that changed with Better Nature Tempeh. So this is my company, this is my full-time job. Tempeh Movement is a charity. I love doing it, it's almost like a hobby, but this is my day-to-day job. The story started in 2018. So when I went to the US for the first time, I failed to get a government scholarship, LPDP. Anybody on LPDP scholarship? Yeah. All of them? Oh, wow. Okay. So then I didn't get it. I failed. Maybe because of the offer. So I got an offer to go straight to PhD without master's degree. But I thought I didn't have a master's degree diploma, so okay, I should apply to get the master's degree scholarship, right? But then I created confusion during the interview process, and they said, yeah, we don't have this scheme, but would you accept if it's just master's degree? And I thought, I really want to do PhD, so I want to do straight to PhD. So I didn't get it, and I was worried that my offer would be void if I didn't take it. So I took all of my saving, I flew to the US, and I lived frugally. I lived in my friends' houses because I couldn't afford rent. I took the minimum amount of credits or school credits as low as possible, so the tuition would be as cheap as possible. I work at the kitchen, school kitchen. I applied for 9 jobs. I got rejected. I work as a cook and as a waiter as well. Then I had to survive, right? I had to survive. So I applied to every single competition that I could apply. It's about video making, if it's about communication, anything that could give me a better CV and money, because I had to survive, right? But then on the second year, fortunately, I got the LPDP scholarship with a different strategy. I said, look, I'm going to straight to PhD, so I'm applying for this PhD scholarship, and I got it. I was relieved, but the habit of applying to every single competition persisted. So one of the competitions I applied for like 118 competitions in 5 years. I monitored more than that. I failed most of them, but one of them changed my life. So I joined one at the University of Cambridge in 2018. They gathered 100 select biotechnologists out of 7,000 applicants. I was such an underdog. Like this guy from food science on Tempeh fermentation against these people making vaccines. That was not pandemic yet, fortunately. If it was pandemic, I would say like the vaccine ones would have won. So, to my surprise, the idea to decentralize the production of protein sustainably and affordably won the first prize. And I thought, what? I couldn't believe it. And the price of the competition, it was like £2,500 back then. Yeah. But it could only be used to incorporate a company and try to make your idea a reality. So I thought, I was like on my blood and tears in the lab doing this PhD research. It was really difficult. And how could I build a company as I'm doing my PhD? But then I thought, this opportunity would not come twice. So I thought, let's do it. So with my friend Chris, so he's really good with like business matters. Like we built this company. We incorporated it right after the competition. We started creating business plan, right? It was my first time making business plan. Creating this business plan, like speaking to potential investors, getting friends and family involved for investment, and then joining more competitions, pitching, like printing clothes, designing a logo, choosing a name, right? And then, so now we have 4 co-founders, Alan and Fabio, then joined. So Alan, really good at marketing. Alan and Chris went to Oxford together. Chris studied biochemistry, Alan studied psychology, then Fabio joined. Fabio lived in Yogyakarta for 8 months. He fell in love with Tempeh. He was studying at the University of Nottingham, so one of our co-founders is from University of Nottingham. He missed Tempeh, couldn't find Tempeh. He spammed me via emails, via Tempeh Movements emails. Hey, Driando, could we do some collaboration? Oh, sorry, we don't have any project. 2 weeks later, hey, Driando, like, could we not do any collaboration? Sorry, we don't have. Until, like, after we won the competition, I said to Fabio, we just won this competition. I think it'd be great if you could meet Chris in London. So Chris almost got into McKinsey for full time. He got accepted, he got the offer, and he rejected that to create this company. So the 4 of us, then we joined that unbelievable events. Like, I used to read biographies like Steve Jobs and what else? Elon Musk, Silicon Valley. And one time we just went to Silicon Valley for this event called the Good Food Conference. We spoke with some investors in the Silicon Valley to pitch our ideas. And I thought, gosh, this journey is quite unbelievable. And this is the biggest team that we've ever got. So we got people now from France, Slovenia, Finland, and Indonesia, of course, Italy, Germany, and Wales, and Hong Kong. And I think that's all. So again, like my desire since I was younger, that I want this international exposure, like global, working with people from different backgrounds, it's becoming a reality. But this is the current stage of the company. So this is the pitch deck that we have when we present the company right now. Okay. So the positioning is that Better Nature is the world's leading tempeh brand and food company. So we want to be Europe's go-to tempeh brand as we are developing technologies to produce, again, the values, delicious, nutritious, and all natural. Plant-based products using tempeh. Then the co-founder's profile, our background. Then Tempeh's brief history and how it's been gaining traction. Then our big mission, like a mission is to get 500 million people eating tempeh-based product by 2030. How could we do that? Okay, go to supermarkets, go to these biggest cities to capture this market, to get as many people as possible, to make tempeh mainstream. And why we do so? Because of statistics, for example, in terms of global warming, greenhouse gas emission, deforestation caused by the meat industry, for example, and then projected increases in protein demand for health and other reasons. Then we go into the current gap in the market. So for example, 61% of consumers cite health as the number one reason to eat meat-free products, but 84% of consumers still find the ingredient list and to be not as clean as they would, and they want more natural ingredients. And 61% of UK consumers think meat-free products are still too processed. So don't get me wrong, I love these products. For example, like this, I love Richmond, Beyond Burger, I love these products, but there is a gap for something that is natural. Then we do this comparison, right? The existing top-selling products, what they have, what they don't have. Then we give the solution in terms of tempeh. We list down tempeh's great characteristics, for example, 100% natural, high in protein, fiber, great for gut, natural firm texture, etc. and etc. Then we explain what is tempeh fermentation very easily, what you can do with tempeh fermentation, what the values of tempeh fermentation, like you can see on the right, like natural, high in protein, fiber, better for planet, and etc. So these are mainly for investors and buyers, so we adjust the language accordingly. Then we see the market opportunity, because if it's not financially sustainable, the mission will not be sustainable, right? So, okay, how big of a market that we could capture? So we need to plot, okay? First, the UK, EU, and US tempeh market, that's our serviceable, obtainable market. I had to learn these terms like just as we go. Then the EU and US tempeh market and the global tempeh market. So do the market analysis. Oops, sorry. Then we present our products. So this is how it looks, and now we're already in Tesco, in Whole Foods, in Lidl, Planet Organic, All Plants, Mindful Chef, Selfridges, Amazon, etc. We'll be launching soon in Asda as well in January. Then we showcase how our products are superior to other products. So for example, the awards that we got, for example, the Nourish Vegan Award, the Great Taste Award, the Grocer's Best Packaging Award. These just came like in the past year. Before that, we were still trying to find, okay, which one is the best packaging and best format. Then we build the brand. Brand is how consumers can trust us. Okay, our brand is what? It's fun, it's cheerful, it's all natural, it's happy, it's wholesome. It's not trying to look cool, it's not trying to look like neat, it's not trying to look macho as well. So it's all about branding. Then the business side, the forecasting. Okay, does your business have a future? So we need to prove this. Okay, based on our forecasting with this revenue, with the forecasted revenue, we will reach this value in a couple of years. And now this is our traction. The next one will be this, for example. Like in the next 2 years, we try to get into like larger supermarkets. If you go to like the US as well, we will target these supermarkets. We need to show that. It's called roadmap. Then this is more of the marketing strategy, right? Our PR, public relations, influencer partnership, brand partnerships, events, out-of-home campaign. This strategy has to be built from now, and the investors and buyers should know. Then we showcase more of the traction of the brand as well. For example, Instagram followers and recipes and subscribers, like sampling sessions and the newspapers that have covered us. Then we showcase more into how we could get into Tesco, right? How we find the gap. Then, okay, after the current products, what would be the next products? So we showcase, we'll create these products next. Why? Because we've done research that there are gaps can be filled by these products. Then in terms of R&D, we got like some exciting developments as well, like Tempeh 2.0. What is Tempeh 2.0, right? Pushing the boundaries of the texture and taste and nutrition of tempeh through research. Tempeh flour to get into the business-to-business or B2B segment as a good market. And for example, tempeh protein isolate for more applications. Then we secured the patents for these inventions as well. These are R&D projects that are less agile compared to the previous products. The previous products are called NPD, New Product Development. So these are the high-risk, high-potential projects. Naturally enhanced vitamin B12 tempeh, or like reduced fermentation time tempeh. Then the team, we give the current structure of the team and the advisors as well, because we need people with experience as well. So people who have handled like food brands, for example, and food scientists and organizational experts to convince that the investors and buyers, we are in good hands. Then this is for like fundraising mainly. Okay, yeah, to meet our traction, we need this much money. We plan to raise it by this, and if we raise this, we will do this. Then the social impact. To me, this is very important because I don't want to be another tempeh company that never mentions Indonesia, that never gives back to Indonesia. I need to secure the identity that tempeh is from Indonesia, right? But we still look like a global brand. We don't want to look like ethnic brand. We want to be a global brand, we want to go mainstream, but still having a strong root to Indonesia. So that's why we donate to Yayasan Usaha Mulia or YUM. They are doing great work in preventing childhood malnutrition in West Java, where I come from. Then we got B Corp certified, which is quite a big deal. Do you know B Corp certification? So this is like the highest standard for sustainability amongst companies. So if you see these on packaging labels like B, that means they got B Corp certification. It's called B because it's beneficial for all, for the society and for the environment. Then we keep a carbon footprint low for our products. So that's the Better Nature Tempeh story. Let's see, how much time do I have left? Okay, so, but then speaking about your questions, like innovation from lab to shelf, that was the polished story. Behind the scene, it was full of trials and errors. So when I won the competition at Cambridge, this was the idea, to decentralize the production of protein by making this 3D printed tempeh making machine that if you buy one in the UK, you give one to Indonesia, to malnourished children, and we also create this enhanced tempeh fermentation starter culture, right? Great idea, exciting, sounds cool. But then we got questions like, okay, but who would actually buy a tempeh making machine? People who want a natural source of protein. But do people know about tempeh yet? No. So how could you sell it if people don't know? We couldn't answer that question. We had to change the business plan. Or maybe before that, we need to introduce easy to eat product as well. Let's say tempeh chips, tempeh crisps, or like ready to eat curry, for example. Okay, that makes sense, right? So along the way, we had moved forward with prototyping for the tempeh making machine, for example. So this was the latest prototype. The idea is that the principle of making tempeh is condensed into this semi-automated machine. Because the key of making tempeh is to make the baby mushrooms, quote-unquote mushrooms, happy, right? They need food, they need a bedroom to take a nap. They need food to be cooked and tender enough, but not too hot. And that's why we boil the beans, we peel the skins, we let it dry before we mix the baby mushroom in the starter culture powder with the beans. Then we put them into their bedrooms. It could be banana leaves, it could be plastic bags with holes. The bedroom should have windows so they can breathe. And it took them about 24 to like 30 hours of nap time until they grow into this adult mushroom that gather the beans together so we can slice the tempeh. So, but that idea didn't work. We were not a team of experts of hardwares, right? I'm a food scientist, my friend Fabio from University of Nottingham is a food scientist, Chris is a biochemist, Ellen is a marketer, so that it didn't fit us. But I believed in that idea so much that it was actually painful to pivot away from that idea to the current idea. So now, these are the products that we tried. Most of them failed. Most of them didn't sell. Most of them we had to cancel. But we have to just keep improving until we got the current products that are now listed in Tesco and Whole Foods and NASA and etc. And every pivot, it was painful. So now, what I think the most important thing is not IQ, it's not EQ, it's AQ. It's adaptation quotient. Are we open-minded enough to respond to these ever-changing circumstances? So that, in lab to shelf, is very important. And with these products, these come from a long way. I had to break down my ego as a scientist to produce something absolutely fascinating. Because what I found to be fascinating in the scientific world might not be needed by the current society, right? These tempeh making machines sounds very cool, right? But maybe the society is not ready for that yet. Maybe in the future, yes. But if we keep developing something for the far future, then how could we sustain the business for the now? So ego, I had to break that down quite painfully. But now we have a system in place to create new products. For example, we need to ask the right questions. We can't just make products just because we like it. Oh yeah, I think tempeh making machine is cool. No, we need to look into the society, what people actually need and what are not being provided yet. So the flow from left to right will be usage and attitude survey. We ask questions, hey, do you cook? Okay, if you cook, where do you get your products? Where do you shop? What do you wish there would be more options in the supermarket? So asking the right questions. Then we do survey. Okay, if we give you this product, would you buy it? Okay. If not, then why? Then we do it again. Then, okay, based on this research, I think this product draft would be great. Okay, the draft would be, let's create tempeh nuggets with this much protein because of this, with this much fiber because of this, at this price because of this. That because of this is very important. We need research to make every single product. Then we try to find, okay, how could we produce this? Could we collaborate with other factories? Because if we build our own factories, we will run out of investment money very, very soon. Then once we got, okay, can we collaborate these 3 factories to make us product? Okay. Can we have this exclusively? If yes, then how would be the pricing? Okay, the pricing if the supermarket takes like 40% of the margin, can we still have like sustainable margin? How much is sustainable margin? Okay, 30% margin. Would that fit? Etc. Unit economics. Then we launch. Before we launch, we need to make sure to the warehouse. Okay, we need like 50 pallets or like 500 packages sent to the supermarket on this date. Could you do it? Okay, we need, but then we need like a different ice cubes for these certain pallets. Those have to be sorted before we launch. When we launch, then we create this marketing plan. Okay, on the launch date, we will create 2 Instagram reels, 1 Instagram feed. On LinkedIn, we will post this. So on the launch date, we get like boom traction. We populate these media newsletter as well with the launch announcement. So that, and this is just an example of how we formulate new products. Again, new research. UK meat-free market is booming. Consumers want all natural products, but now products have to go either artificial but nutritious, or natural but not nutritious. So we see the gap, and we try to make these future products to address that. So if you see this graph, the darker it is, the black bars, the less clean label. The lighter it is, the orange one, the more clean label, and the nutrition. For example, the protein, the more clean label, the less protein. We want to make that something that is all natural but high in protein. So we come up with these next product pipelines. Okay, this is the current one because people love cooking from scratch. Then the next one because people love convenience. Then with this one because of favorite forms and flavors. Then the frozen one because of people are looking for like good family deals. Then this one because of convenience and top selling formats and flavors. With this one because of the favorite formats as well. So every product has their own reason. Then we plot it into the timeline. Then we work very hard to launch every single one of them. So I would say that's it for today.
Such a pleasure listening to you. It really is a privilege. And I do have some questions. And, well, where do I start? I mean, it seems to me, you know, amongst people that I respect are at the top of the list are those who take risks. And I know how difficult this is. I mean, you might presented it as if it looks easy, but you know, I've gone through ups and downs myself, and I could testify that this isn't easy. Where do you think did this incessant drive to keep on moving come up? Was it from your family? Was it through your own, let's say, illumination, or where does it come from?
Very interesting question. And I got many dimensions to this question. I think the internal drive comes from curiosity. I've always been a very curious person. When I was a toddler, my mom had to say this to me, like, Hando, stop it. Because I kept asking, like, Mom, why am I alive? Why, if I move my hands, my fingers, they move? Why? I kept asking that question, even until now, like, why am I alive? What am I alive for? So this curiosity to figure out, could I actually make impact? Right? Could I actually make my life more meaningful? I would say that drive is very strong. But also the values that have been planted by my family members. So my grandpa, like, I think his life story is very inspirational. He came from a very poor family in Klaten. He had to perform surgery to his own mom. He climbed his way from not being able to purchase any underwear. He had to make his own underwear by stitching together rice sacks.
Yeah. Sorry, you mentioned before, I think it was in one of the interviews, that your grandfather was a vet.
Yes, was a vet.
So he had to do the surgery
as a vet. Yeah.
Okay.
He was an accomplished vet, but not too long after he graduated, actually, so very young. But because the family couldn't afford any hospital, that was the only way.
Amazing.
Yeah, so then seeing my grandpa's life story, so he became like the president of the FAO and WHO in Geneva and Rome to handle the Codex Alimentaris Food Commission. So that is like the food Bible. And I was motivated as well because to me, like he's like researching all of Indonesia's indigenous foods, and to me, I want to pick one that is very meaningful and relevant to me and the world to go very deep. So
Yeah.
I see that I tried to position myself because I'm quite a competitive person as well. Like, how could I
You sure do like
be
wine.
better than my grandpa? So there is that motivation. But then I think it comes from a place of love as well. I think I've been living in a very loving family, and I think that's a big privilege. So all my life, I always know that I'm loved, especially by my mom, but also from my dad, my grandparents, and my younger brother. So I feel this genuine drive to share. If I can just share goodness or kindness, I would do it. If I could share it through my life mission, through Tempeh, I would happily do it. So it's like the sense of, okay, I got this much privilege, I would say.
And one of the sweetest thing is that among the things that you can pick up, that's tempeh, which is anecdotally people could say, look, you know, you're tempeh eating person, which is usually a connotative, derogatory terms, right? You're just eating tempeh. There's no way you're gonna compete at a global stage. What I do want to ask you is this: it seems like you're unique in the things that you do, particularly because you combine not only commerce, but also education and science, but also activism all in one go. And these aren't, you know, easy things to do. Where do you see the challenges come up mostly from?
Yeah, so I think every aspect has its stage. So when I was a student, it was definitely science plus activism. Because as a student, I wanted to make impact, like with this, making the Tempeh movement, making the Instagram account, like posting on social media how I try to bodybuild.
This will be on Instagram, by the way.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
So that, the movement felt natural back then.
Yeah.
But not yet in terms of business or entrepreneurship. Like I was just dwelling with science. Then my PhD, I was just trying to finish my PhD as I was doing Tempeh movement. And the challenge was that I was a stereotypes.
Okay.
From the Tempeh itself, when I tried using Tempeh as bodybuilding, I tried to tell my friends that this is nutritionally great. You could probably try using it for your bodybuilding. And they all refused, like, no. Tempeh bodybuilding, no. Like, Tempeh is something old, like uncool, traditional, bodybuilding something modern, it's cool. So then I see that tension, right? And maybe because I have this rebellious nature in myself, like I always love to just flip the narrative. Like if something is being underestimated, I want to flip it. And
you're a contrarian.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, so that, I saw that. And I was doing PhD and then activism, it was like a snowball.
Okay.
It was a snowball. But one of the challenges was rejection. I tried to reach out to this many restaurants, like chefs and designers, these entrepreneurs. In the beginning, in the early days of Tempeh movement, people would like, people would just like ignore me or like ghost me for this.
These are people in Indonesia?
In Indonesia.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because the stigma is very strong. And I just realized two different challenges. In Indonesia, people know Tempeh, but there's been this like stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
Well, outside of Indonesia, people don't know Tempeh yet. It's still quite niche, but it's more of a blank page. So two different challenges.
Wow.
When I got into science, the key challenge was research. Research, like PhD research was not easy at all. It was just like fail, succeed, fail. It was like running marathon without being told how many kilometers the race would be.
Exactly, that's how it feels like at times.
But I never doubted. I always wanted to get PhD to spread more goodness about Tempeh. So I see it as a bridge. with entrepreneurship, the key challenge is you just never know what every day or tomorrow will bring you.
Yeah.
Like, tomorrow could be the greatest day ever in the company's journey, or tomorrow could be the worst day ever in the company journey, because things move very fast. And this is why startups exist, right? We got these big companies have like a lot more money, a lot more presence, and we got these startups, a small group of people who are willing to work really hard, who've got good ideas, who are committed, who've got passion, who are willing to do things differently, trying to challenge this. And of course, it wouldn't be easy, right? But the silver lining is that there is no one single boring day.
Yeah, it's always exciting. One of the challenges is to, you put it really perfectly. It's like running a marathon without ever knowing where the finish line is. Now, I'm sure some of you have got questions right now. Anybody would like to be the first? Zidane, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Zidane. My question is to you. Since Tempeh is originated from Indonesia, do you think, my question is that why didn't the company start, as you know, you said that before it was a global brand and you tried to get international exposure by introducing Tempeh to the world. My question is that did ever the company wanted to be more of a Indonesian-based company at the start, then becoming a global company? Or is it just at the start, you all, including all the co-founders and you as the founder, was initially wanted to the company to be global?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question because it seems to start outside Indonesia and then it's slowly coming back in. Or what's the strategy?
So in 2018, we actually tried to start things in Indonesia. We tried to start selling this branded Tempeh chips in Indonesia, in some channels and production in Indonesia as well. But then our ambition is always global. Even though if we started in Indonesia, we always wanted to take it global. And when we tried starting that from Indonesia, we encountered this wall, like regulation and then certification as well. Because if we want to get into Tesco, for example, we need to get this certain certification, like BRC certification, like for food safety reasons. And that we thought it was not realistic. And to me, as an Indonesian, I had ego as well, right? No, like I really want this to be Indonesian company. In my mind, it was still like this ethnic company. So when you go to Asian stores, you will find ethnic brands. If you go to Tesco, you will see these mainstream brands. In my mind, I was like, no, I want to bring this Indonesian identity at every level, like to the world. But then I faced the reality in terms of supply chain, regulation, and then the market. We can't, for example, we can't really tell like the British people to eat this ethnically packaged food every day, right? For example, we want to eat like this tempeh wrapped in batik packaging, for example, every day. Like they need to perceive it as something like, oh, like I could relate to this product. It's part of my life. This product is part of me, like something like that. Maybe for some different products it can, but in this case, like I'd encountered that problem. And it was really painful because we had invested quite a lot of time and money to start that in Indonesia, but it failed. So we changed strategy again. Okay, how we could go towards this direction.
Yeah. But eventually, you would like to penetrate the society.
But we don't plan to penetrate the Indonesian market. Because one, I think tempeh Indonesia is already great. Like tempeh in tukang sayur, my favorite, right? And two, the tempeh industry in Indonesia is protected. Like it is for the micro and small enterprises. I would never want to compete with micro and small enterprises. Well, in Europe, the biggest tempeh company is now owned by Indonesian, right? And And that got me to the question, if you call a company an Indonesian company, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that the company is incorporated in Indonesia? Or do you mean that the company is owned by an Indonesian? Which I think the second one is more important. And that's why I try my best to keep that the highest share percentage, it's still owned by an Indonesian.
Okay.
Because like, we can see like other startups getting scrutinized in Indonesia, like, oh, I thought you were an Indonesian company, but you're incorporated in Singapore. Because legal-wise, it's much easier to access like investment, right?
I understand.
But I would say, just see the shareholding, or just revisit, what do you mean by Indonesian? What do you mean by Indonesian companies?
No, the problem with identity is always very difficult to define. You know, what makes Indonesia Indonesia? And I think when it talks about soft power or the projection of Indonesian identity globally, people always fall short in their understanding of what makes Indonesia Indonesia, and sometimes fall into the trap of what I call Orientalism. You know, but this is different. This is a genuine added value to me, and then people outside Indonesia can genuinely appreciate it as a new viable source for protein, the one that is sustainable, and the one that portrayed Indonesia at a global stage as a country that is more sustainability literate. But anyways, any other questions? Adeline, go.
Yeah. So I guess this is something to do in general a lot with personality, branding, and all that. And I was wondering whether, I guess this does happen a lot, and I've seen this happen, where people would often take foods that would have a cultural background to it and claim it as their own. Have you ever been worried that that sort of thing could happen because you've had such a global branding?
Okay. So in a sense that what, Tempeh is taken by a different country.
Yeah, as in some other country claims it as, oh, I found it in Tesco, therefore it's British, or something like that.
Okay, well, we need to get into more details, like what does it mean to be taken or claimed, right?
Yeah.
Is it to be registered to UNESCO, like as an intangible heritage from a different country? That is a problem. That is a problem. But there is certain limit on the scope, right? What can be registered and what cannot be registered. So like Tempeh as it is cannot be claimed for this kind of regulation. Just like cheese, you cannot claim cheese originated from which area, but particular cheeses can be registered as a, for example, geographic indication from Camembert, for example. And that's why Tempeh Mendoan got like quite recognition last year, so it was good. But then I would say there is regulatory / branding lens, right? Registering something to UNESCO is more like regulation, and for branding, it's for like publication. It's to create this impression to the society that who owns what and to build certain image. The second layer is actually economy, which could be more prevalent, right? For example, if all of Tempeh factories in the world are being acquired by this one big company owned by, let's say, country X, but this country X never claims that Tempeh is from country X, I think that would be detrimental as well, right? So like market domination plays a role too in defining what do you mean by taken. I mean, wine production has been shifting, right? Like wine is not necessarily from Europe anymore, like been produced in other parts of the world.
I think what's lacking is one binding narrative. It's not just about ownership in the sense of company founders or market share, but it's a narrative that says, you know, if you want sustainably sourced food and one that is ethical and the whole world has been facing the same challenges, and that is sustainability, Indonesia is a viable option from which you get this new kind of food. But it's an abstract thing. You cannot own narrative But you've seen countries that has been successful doing
Mhm.
so, like Korea, for
Yep.
example. They have a grand narrative, and it seems to be aligned. The whole country moved the same way. The private sector through its own industry, but the diplomacy at the governance level, also one that promotes that. I think this might be a little bit pressing that I want to ask you. Do you see that happening with Indonesia? Your movement, do you see it align with the emerging narrative from the country? And that is to become a new place where sustainable food come from. You know, do you see that happening?
My personal belief is yes. But then, I wonder if anybody could answer this. What is our current narrative of Indonesia? Like, what? I would say one of them is that 2045 will be a milestone year for us, because that is an opportunity for us to be a developed country economically. Right?
Yeah.
That is one of many narratives being brought
100
up.
years.
And that is tied to educating the younger generations, like optimizing the demography bonus
Mhm.
of the plentiful of the productive age, right? And that's related to making sure that they can grow up healthily, because if they are malnourished,
Yes.
they cannot develop intellectually. Like malnutrition attacks physical growth and brain growth, right? And it's happening within the first 1,000 days of life that cannot be turned back.
Yeah.
So, in order to prevent malnutrition, we need to make nutritious food accessible, and in a way that does not destroy our environment, just like the current pollution in Jakarta. We need to do that sustainably.
Yeah.
That's where I see Tempeh fits. But to make the policymakers understand, a business is not enough.
Yeah.
A movement is not enough.
Yeah.
But a movement with high caliber collaborators,
Yeah.
that might be enough. So
Exactly, yeah.
that's what I'm trying to do. Like, business is just one dimension of what I'm trying to do. Tempeh movement is where I see hope that it should create this comprehensive change.
Yeah.
Like you said, South Korea. Let's say kimchi. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
right,
kimchi is registered. Kimchi's business has been dominated by South Korea. And kimchi as a culture is integrated in K-dramas. So
Yeah.
we need that. But I appreciate that every government operates differently. Even every government official, every term could appreciate differently, right? So that
Yes. Yes.
in my own understanding, that while I'm trying my best to collaborate with the government one day, we need to create the base, and the base is the movement. It's grassroots, yes,
Exactly.
but it keeps going, which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, because one of the perplexing issues that if you go to see the government and see, and if you want them to rank orders in terms of what the biggest problems Indonesia is facing, I think more often than not, in the top 3, stunting would be there.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. You know, you go to provincial governments, you go to the central governments, the Ministry of Health, stunting here, stunting there. Well, certainly at the bottom of the problem is malnutrition. Do you see Tempeh has ever been aligned with that? Because that just comes out of our own land. You know, it's a solution viably available. I've never seen that correlated in the same sentence.
Yeah, so interesting. So my mom just got her PhD in public health
Yeah.
on stunting prevention
Okay.
from University of Indonesia, I think just last month. So she got her PhD at the age of 57.
By the way, you're a curious mix of entrepreneurial and academic. You and your mother and your grandfather, they're all academics, yeah? They're all...
So my
They all
mom, so my grandpa founded this food laboratory
Yeah,
that now my mom is running.
yeah,
So my mom is also entrepreneur scientist.
yeah.
But my grandpa is, I would say, scientist entrepreneur. So he's more of an academician, but he also does some entrepreneurships. While
Okay.
my mom is more entrepreneur, but she is also now being quite tightly connected with the academy.
Okay, sorry I cut you up. And your mother was doing dissertation in public health.
Yes, so
Right.
she got the latest access to all these stunting prevention programs. And to your question about has it been linked between Tempeh and stunting? Yes.
Okay.
But the world of malnutrition prevention is also very complicated. We got these NGOs doing different things, we got this government promoting other things, we got this public understanding about what's currently happening. Right, so my short question is yes, Tempeh should be able to help, but Tempeh cannot be the only one. It has to be part of this comprehensive intervention. Food, absolutely, right? Food is prioritized for nutrition, digestibility, and now the shift is like for locally sourced foods.
Yeah.
Right, so then after that, hygiene as well, because if like babies got like poisoning, like diarrhea, like the weight would just go down and being underweighted, malnutrition again. Then like family support, like through my mom's research, like husband support is critical. So like all the men, we have responsibility as well in raising kids. So that, yeah, that and income as well, economy.
Yes, of
So
course, it's a complex
yes,
thing.
Tempeh can, but it has to be part of this comprehensive.
Again, the narrative.
Again,
Okay. Please, any other questions? Silakan.
My name is Kayla, and I'd like to ask you a question upon how is it that you raise awareness or how to convince people around global to eat Tempeh? Because earlier you mentioned that all you wanted to do is to promote a cheap, affordable, but full of proteins and calcium and fiber and so on. But how is it that you convince people around here to eat that when the ingredients were like mycelium mushrooms and so on? Because, well, as you know, people around here, they weren't really familiar with eating things that mushroom-based or mycelium. So what if they thought that it was dangerous or something? So how would you convince them? Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, good question. We are still trying to answer that question until now. How could we get people eating more tempeh in the UK? And it's related to branding. We see things differently. How could we shape the way people see something the way that we want them to see? So through this branding, do you think about mycelium at all? Well, maybe if I'm a scientist, yes, but then for regular people, like you shouldn't read any mycelium this.
Yeah.
If you flip the packaging, in the ingredient list, you would just see soybean, water, and tempeh culture.
Nice.
So it's very important to select which terms, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems now are actually misunderstandings between scientists and lay people. We mean it's something good, but people, because they don't know scientific terms or like chemical names, they're scared, right? What are these like chemical sounding name, like
Yeah.
recognizing? A lot of problems in the industry are because of these misunderstandings. And I think that in a sense, I think it'd be great if everybody learns something from the other, right? As a
Yeah.
scientist, I need to learn branding. As a marketer, they need to learn a bit of science as well.
I mean, I could be blamed for being in my own bias bubble too, because I grew up in Indonesia, right? Tempeh is everywhere growing up, so I couldn't have thought about what other people might be thinking about it, especially those grown up in a different culture. Yeah, so yeah, this is something, probably it's good that you started outside Indonesia. Well, you didn't, but now that most of your endeavor take place in, and then your colleagues, your co-founders, they're all also non-Indonesian, at least some of them. So that probably can give a different perspective about how they view tempeh as an alternative.
Exactly. And if I may on that, so my equation is always to combine something that people already love with something new. For example, They love like flavored pizzas already. They love Mediterranean food. They love
I see.
curry
Okay.
plus tempeh. Voila. It can't be like absolutely new thing. People would not adopt it. But with entrepreneurship, it's the same. I can't do this without my co-founders. I can't do this without my co-founders who've lived in the UK long enough to understand the market. And sometimes when we are discussing about the Indonesian narrative, like it's all about like us Indonesians, us Indonesians, us Indonesians. But in some circumstances, we can achieve more by collaborating with non-Indonesians
Yeah.
to promote something that would still answer our longing for Indonesian culture to be esteemed. So to me, it's still been like a very humbling lesson. Because me too, I feel like, oh, I'm Indonesian, like in the Tempeh business. But in reality, we need each other. We need this synergy of different skill sets.
Yeah, it's not us against them.
Yeah.
You know, it's collaborative.
Yeah.
And it's time to be outward looking. Any other questions? Zidan, go ahead.
Maybe a fun question. Do you think I saw that in the future that you are trying to make like a burger-based tempeh and something like that. Do you think that in the future you guys will dive into like Indonesian-based flavor, for example, like the taste of rendang or nasi goreng, for example? And do you guys think in the future Better Nature will try to
Slowly smuggling in this in Indonesia.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm working on that actually. So that, but again, we did research like what are the top flavors that you would buy every week, for example.
No, tempeh and chips.
Tempeh and chips. Tempeh and chips. Yeah, why not?
In a batter.
Yeah. So that through the research we found that the top selling flavors would be, one is peri peri,
Oh yes, yes, I like that one.
second one is barbecue, third one will be sweet chili, the fourth one would be something like salt and pepper, and then
Yeah.
curry. So then these are the flavors that people in the UK love. If we put something like
Kari ayam.
yeah, or like pepes. Like people wouldn't know like what is pepes, right?
Yeah.
So can you imagine when we go into supermarket, we see these many products. People
Yeah.
only have split seconds to decide to choose our product. We need to attract them right away. And if you don't use something that they already love, there's no chance that people will pick our product. There's no chance for second purchase, right? So, but if you see this peri peri, this barbecue, this curry, we can make an Indonesian twist to these. Let's say curry is actually rendang or like kalio. It could be like, but we need to write it Indonesian, maybe a bit smaller. Curry, right? And then when tried, gosh, I've never tried curry this good. What is this? Indonesian curry. Wow, cool. With barbecue, it could be, yeah, written barbecue, but behind the scene is actually like ikan bakar
Oh, ikan
kecap.
bakar, okay. Yeah.
Bakar kecap kan. And then a bit Indonesian barbecue. Oh, I love barbecue. Oh gosh, I've never tried something like this. So
Yeah.
it's like that. And sweet chili could be balado, right? So
Yeah.
something they love, something new.
Yeah. This is vaguely related. So I was in a cafeteria somewhere in the University Park campus, and in Starbucks there it sells soup. You've seen it, right? It's called Indonesian chickpea soup. I've never had chickpea in Indonesia. What is it even called in Indonesia? Chickpea? Anyway, but the fact that they have Indonesian worded there, it means that it appeals to
Progress.
some. Yeah, it's a progress. It appeals to the local population, and I, for one, always admire works like the one you do.
Oh, thank you.
Last questions, please. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Nugik. I would like to ask about what is your biggest challenge to make your product fit with the market? Because I have experience when I my team make a startup that almost 1 year we make a product, but when we try to market, it does not fit with the market. So we decide to pivot, but in but still in the same field, like that. What is your biggest challenge and how you can handle that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would say that's an excellent question. The term is called product market fit. So product market fit. The reason why the Tempeh making machine failed was because it couldn't find the product market fit. Who would buy this product, even though we can make it? And through our journey, that's what we're trying to figure out. In the beginning, we only started with, oh yeah, based on my observation, making this product would be great, Tempeh chips, right, or Tempeh crisps. But then it turns out like nobody wanted to buy it.
Yeah.
Then after that, oh, maybe these flavorings. But then nobody wanted to purchase this kind of flavorings.
Yeah.
The turning point was research. Once we got access to something called a test, A-T-T-E-S-T, we can recruit people, we can ask them questions. For example, our target market is actually female, aged between 25 to 30 something, flexitarian, with a social economy status of what, B1, B2, C1. We asked this third-party company to get this group of people for us, like 500 people. Then we asked them, like, where do you go shopping? Like, what do you eat? Which one do you like? From that research, we know, like, oh, who would purchase our product would be these people. These people have this particular need unaddressed. They want something more natural, easy to cook, something, for example. So that is why, so me, for example, like it's quite tragic, not tragic, but like I got PhD in food science, but I also still do sales analysis. Why? Because the analytical skill is translatable from the science world to the food industry world, for example. So research. I see research is not as an activity. I see research is an attitude.
Research is okay.
Right. So it's something that if you want to know the truth, we need to find the primary source. We need to get to the truth as close as possible, rather than assuming, rather than opinionating. So it's research.
Yeah, it's beyond lab, right?
Exactly.
Outside the lab, so it's a mindset thing. But just to follow up on that, I mean, one of the challenges is this. We are in a lab sometimes. Whenever you write journal publications, you avoid superlatives. Like, this is the best thing. You never write something like that, right? You quantify things. And one of the most difficult things to quantify, I would argue, is the degree at which market pulls, right? How do you quantify the actual demand from the people? So that would be probably because that's not my discipline. But my question genuinely is this. So you grew up in an academic world, let's say, and then you found something that to you would constitute great values. Like, this is full of vitamins, healthier for you. But on the other hand, I would call that technology push, right? Another thing is that the market pull. The market pull means like people genuinely in need of something that they would willingly spend money for. Which one is more important? I know that both are. But if you have to choose one to follow, to reduce risks in your own experience, what would you follow more? Would you adjust the technology for the market pull, or would you somehow do some campaign that make the market fit with the technology you offer?
Okay, well, the diplomatic answer would be both are important. But to
Of
me
course.
personally, it's much harder to change the market than to change the product. Because changing the market means changing the attitude of these millions of people, right? If you got limitless money, you can't do it. And in fact, how we purchase products have been influenced by these big companies making promotions, making ads, etc. Sometimes it got to our conscious mind, sometimes it got into our subconscious mind.
Yes.
But as a startup, I would say product first.
Okay.
Find the market pull, find the product or technological push that would require us as the least effort as possible to adapt. Then when it's clicked, then double down.
Okay.
Yeah, because again, we don't have like as much resources, big company to change
Exactly.
people's attitude.
So this is minimum viable
Yes.
products that you can, test the
Yes.
water with.
But my belief is that people will always seek the truth.
Yes.
So from my food science background, I could see people that, oh yeah, like buy this vitamin C supplement. Wait a second, science says that vitamin C can only work with vitamin E. Okay, buy this vitamin C and E supplements. Wait a second, vitamin C and E can only work if they are protected by the fiber. Buy this complete supplement. So it's still catching up. And some companies try to promote like, hey, like eat these extracts, it's good for you. But then through my research, spending 5 years on my PhD program, the healthier, the best change that we can make diet-wise to be healthier is just to eat more wholesome fruits and veggies. Why fruits and veggies? Because they have vitamins, minerals, they got fiber, they got beneficial bioactive compounds that Tempeh has.
Yeah.
So when these other companies are trying to promote, consume these products who are very, very close to made using these extracts, deep in my heart, I know it's not actually healthy based on my research, right? And what's healthy is something like tempeh, like what we see in tukang sayur, basically.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
what I thought is like in the Western world, the healthiest would be this functional protein bars, right? But no, the healthiest foods would be wholesome fruits and veggies, and that is science. And I believe, regardless of the promotional materials, this like market-changing attempts done by big food companies, people would always find a way closer to the truth.
Yeah.
So that's why this idea might be too early a couple of years ago, because like people were still on the hype of like for other foods. But now I think this is the season. And regarding to your question, how do we predict where the market is switching? Sales data.
Yeah.
So like we can purchase sales data from providers. We will know like, oh, these companies, this food group categories, they are selling this much this year, when it's going down. Why? Oh, on the other hand, this one is increasing. What are these? These are the more natural options. People are switching behavior. They're switching to something more natural.
Yeah.
So it's just like laboratory data, but obtained through
You
somewhere
can see-
else. So
you
but
can see
again,
the signature of people's
yeah.
attitude and the change thereof.
exactly.
And the truth will reveal itself.
I believe that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I can talk to you for a very long time. This is the first time we met.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the last time. Dr. Driando will still be here until December,
Yep.
20th December. So hopefully we can meet you again in London. Some of the students will go there.
Yeah,
in
please.
London, and to basically go to Tesco and
Yeah.
get on.
Tempeh shopping spree.
Let's give a round of applause again to Dr. Driando.